An audit firm, one of the biggest in the world, just lost its chair and two senior partners over allegations they used confidential client information to win new business. That's not a rumor. That's the fallout from a whistleblower complaint that took over 2 years to surface. You know that moment when you hand someone sensitive information because you have to. Financials, strategy, problems you don't want public. Details that could hurt you if they leaked. That's what companies do with auditors. They open the vault because the auditor's job is to be trusted. Now imagine the vault didn't just get opened. Imagine someone copied the map. Because this story isn't about one spreadsheet. It's about what happens when trust becomes a competitive weapon, and when an institution built on confidentiality gets accused of turning private client information into a sales tool. That's not a mistake. That's a system problem. Scroll 1. The trust business. Most people think an audit is paperwork. It's not. It's a trust product sold to the public. When a company hires an auditor, it's not just hiring math. It's hiring credibility. Auditors get access to the vault. Financials, forecasts, risks, weak spots, and plans you don't want leaked. And the deal is simple. We show you everything, and you keep it confidential. Because confidentiality is the foundation. If companies can't trust auditors, the whole system breaks. That's why the Big Four aren't just service providers. They're gatekeepers. Their signature tells banks, investors, and regulators this is real enough to rely on, and that signature is worth billions. But here's the part most people miss. Audits are also a competition. Firms fight for clients. They pitch, bid, and promise value to win contracts. So the trust business lives with a constant temptation. If the prize is big enough, someone will try to bend the rules. And when an audit firm is accused of using confidential client information to win work, it isn't a random scandal. It's the trust business turning into a weapons business. Scroll 2. The leak. Here's what made this explode. The allegation wasn't bad judgment or one sloppy email. It was confidential client information leaking into a competitive process. In plain language, think of it like this. A company invites firms to bid for its audit and shares sensitive details so bidders can propose the best plan. That information is supposed to stay locked inside the pitch process. The accusation is that internal material and privileged details were misused. Not for better auditing, but for winning. And if that's true, it changes what an audit tender even means. It turns competition into a rigged game where one side has the answers first. This is also why the story feels so unsettling. Auditors are the people we rely on to keep other companies honest. So when the gatekeeper is accused of cheating, trust doesn't just crack, it collapses. Because it's not just one client affected. It threatens the whole idea that auditors are supposed to be independent. If firms can weaponize what they learn, then every client interview becomes a risk assessment. And the fallout tends to move fast when the trust product is threatened. Internal reviews, partners stepping aside, regulators circling, clients asking hard questions. Even if the full legal story takes time, the reputational damage hits immediately. Because once you suspect the vault might leak, you stop putting your valuables inside. Scroll 3. The whistleblower problem. The story didn't come out because KPMG put out a glossy confession. It came out because a whistleblower kept pushing. According to reporting, the allegations were first raised inside the firm, then later aired in Australia's Parliament under parliamentary privilege. That matters, because parliamentary privilege can expose claims that powerful organisations would rather fight in private. And the accusation was not vague. It was that confidential client information was allegedly shared internally to help win other audit contracts. The names made the story impossible to ignore. Lendlease, Westpac, Dexus, Macquarie, Telstra, Optus-related information. These are not tiny companies on the edge of the market. They are the kind of clients that make an audit firm look powerful. And that's why the whistleblower angle is so important. Because the scandal isn't just about what may have been shared. It's also about how long the warning signs sat inside the machine before the outside world saw them. KPMG later admitted its handling of the whistleblower, and its initial investigation fell short. Because when the business is trust, mishandling the person warning you about broken trust becomes a second scandal. Scroll 4. How the system works. An audit tender is supposed to be a fair contest. Everyone gets the same information and competes on skill. That's the point of confidentiality in the process. Because companies don't share their weak spots for fun. They share them so the auditor can plan the work properly. Risks, systems, controls, internal issues, the messy parts you wouldn't put in a press release. Now imagine one bidder sees more than the others. Not because they're smarter, but because they got access they weren't supposed to have. That's what makes audit leaks so poisonous. It doesn't just help someone win, it changes what winning means. It can shape the proposal, the pricing, the staffing plan, and the exact language that matches what the client is worried about. It lets a firm sound uncannily aligned because it already knows where the pain is. And here's the uncomfortable truth. In a competitive market, that advantage is enormous. Audit contracts can be big, long-term, and sticky. So the temptation is built in. Win the client, keep the client, protect the revenue stream. That's how a trust business can drift into a sales business. And when sales pressure meets privileged access, the line gets blurry fast. Scroll 5. Why it worked. This doesn't happen because people forget the rules. It happens because the incentives quietly reward rule bending. Audit work is valuable and long-term. Winning a client can mean years of revenue and status inside the firm. So the pressure isn't always shouted. It's implied in performance, rankings, and partner compensation. And the temptation is specific. If you can know what the client fears before the pitch, you can write the perfect pitch. You sound more prepared, more aligned, more trusted, because you already have the answers. That's why leaks are so powerful. They don't just help you win, they help you win cleanly. They make the advantage look like competence instead of unfair access. It also exploits a client's natural bias. Clients want to believe the firm they already trust is the safest choice. And in a high-stakes tender, safe often beats new. There's also reputational armor. Big firms don't just sell audits, they sell certainty. And certainty makes people hesitate before accusing them of misconduct. Inside organizations, people rationalize. They call it being helpful, being responsive, being competitive. The language softens the behavior until it feels normal. And once something feels normal, it spreads. Not as a conspiracy, but as a habit. A habit that turns confidentiality into a tool instead of a duty. That's why this story matters. It's not just a leak, it's a lesson about trust markets. When trust becomes a product, the fastest way to grow is to cheat without looking like you cheated. Scroll 6. The fallout and the lesson. This story doesn't just damage one firm, it damages the idea that the system can police itself. If companies believe audit tenders can be influenced by privileged access, they stop trusting the process. And when trust disappears, everything gets more expensive, slower, and more defensive. Clients start asking harder questions. Who had access to what and when? Competitors start questioning whether they ever had a fair shot. Inside the firm, the fallout hits fast. Reviews, investigations, leaders stepping aside, reputational triage. Because when the product is trust, the first priority is stopping the bleeding. But the deeper damage is structural. Auditors rely on clients being honest and open. If clients fear their information can be used against them, they share less, and audits get weaker. That's the irony. The behavior that might win a contract can weaken the entire market's confidence. And once confidence is gone, no amount of branding can replace it. So here's the takeaway in plain language. If you're choosing an auditor, don't just ask about expertise. Ask about safeguards, confidentiality controls, and how they prevent privileged information from becoming leverage. Because in a trust business, the biggest scandal isn't a mistake. It's turning the vault into a weapon. Scroll 7. The PwC shadow. There's another reason this story hit Australia so hard. KPMG wasn't being judged in a vacuum. The country had already watched another Big Four scandal unfold. KPMG Australia had been accused of misusing confidential government tax information for commercial gain. So when the KPMG allegations surfaced, people already understood the pattern. Confidential information goes in. Revenue opportunity comes out. That is the nightmare version of professional services. A client shares secrets because the firm is supposed to be independent, careful, and clean. But if those secrets become sales ammunition, the relationship flips. The advisor is no longer just serving the client. The advisor is extracting value from the client's trust. That's why this case feels bigger than one audit firm. It sits inside a larger question Australia has been forced to ask. Who watches the firms that are paid to watch everyone else? Because the Big Four do not just audit companies. They advise governments, review systems, shape policy, handle sensitive information, and sit close to power. And when one of them is accused of turning confidential access into commercial advantage, the public doesn't hear internal process failure. Scroll 8. The bigger lesson. This story isn't just about one firm in one country. It's about what happens when the gatekeepers compete like sales teams. When the product is trust, the easiest way to grow is to borrow trust you didn't earn. And the fastest way to borrow it is to weaponize privileged access. That's why audit scandals hit differently. They don't just damage a brand, they damage the scoreboard everyone relies on. Banks, investors, boards, regulators, and employees all make decisions based on that confidence. So when an audit process is accused of being tilted, it doesn't just hurt competitors. It teaches the market that fair may be optional. And once people believe fairness is optional, they stop playing like it matters. They start playing defense, hiding more, sharing less, trusting no one. That's how trust markets rot. Not with one dramatic betrayal, but with repeated small shortcuts that become normal. Until the only thing left is the logo, and nobody believes the logo anymore. The paperwork is supposed to protect the system. Steinhoff shows what happens when the system uses paperwork to protect itself. Watch Steinhoff next. This is Ledger of Lies.